So, you had to go back to work, huh? That's great.
on BNC TV? Which side's the top? Fuzzy side? Evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Love to see the crowd. It's great to have you. We can bring in some more chairs too. Just give me just right at the intro. The room might be open, yeah, in the food pantry. Yeah. Let's see. We're here today with Paul Sievert. So excited he's here. The Northfield Bird Club has helped bring him here today. He was here. Was that last year?
Yeah, yes. Last year.
To talk about albatross, and it was so good. And at the end of the program, people said, "What do you do when you're not studying albatross?" And he went off about these awesome wasps that live right here in our county. And people said, "That's so cool. We got to have you back." So here he is to talk about this. Yes. Sorry, that was preemptive, because I first want to introduce Patter Field, who's speaking on behalf of the Bird Club. Patter.
Oh, I'm so glad to see everybody here today. This is just great. So the Northfield Bird Club, if you don't already know this, is a free, no dues, small club. And in order to join it, all you have to do is come to one of our programs or walks and introduce yourself to one of us, or go to our website, which is northfieldbirdclub.org. Not very hard to remember. And on that website, you will find descriptions of all of our programs, of our upcoming walks, which we will be planning a little bit later this winter and usually start in early May during the heavy migration season. And also it will give you a way to submit your name so you can be on our mailing list and get information about everything that's coming up. We do not take dues, but if you are willing to give a donation after the program, that would be great. There's a little very fine box, well sculpted, which Nick Fleck made when he founded this group, out by the door, and you can put a donation in there if you can, just to help with our operating costs, because we don't charge dues. Many of our wonderful speakers that we have do it for free, and so it's just nice to have something to help with all of that. Let me tell you about our upcoming programs this winter and spring. On Tuesday, February 10th at 6 p.m. in the Northfield Mountain Environmental Center, we're going to have a program about the American Kestrel Project. And I don't know if Rinky wants to say anything more about that now.
The Harris Center is working in southern New Hampshire to try to encourage more nesting of the kestrels. They put up boxes, and Phil Brown will be here to talk all about that project.
So that's on February 10th. And then in March, on Saturday, March 21st, we're going to have a Build a Bluebird Nest program, also at the Northfield Mountain Environmental Center, that will require advanced registration, but the Northfield Mountain Environmental Center is sponsoring the cost for it. And it would be very appropriate, for example, if you have a child or couple children, to bring them and be with them for a program like that. It's also perfectly appropriate for adults. And then in April, on April 30th, right at the beginning of the height of the migration season, David Brown, our special naturalist, who's someplace right on this, there he is back there, will be doing a program sponsored by the Northfield Cultural Council on warbler madness. And he has some amazing videos that he's taken in the field of warblers, and then that will be time to connect with our public walks when you'll be able to observe these species. So that's pretty much what I have to say. I'm going to let Paul introduce himself, and I hope that everybody enjoys the program. You've got one.
Thank you. My name's Paul Sievert. I'm a retired faculty from environmental conservation at UMass, and live here in Gill, just across the river. I still work on albatrosses, which is what I spoke about last year. And I guess these wasps have something in common, is they're big. They are definitely big. And yeah, when I was asked, what I'd like to talk about, there's a million things, but I wouldn't mind talking about wasps. And the reason is, it's nice to have a bunch of people who are interested and want to actually hear about wasps. Because as I recall the other night when Lynette and I, my wife and I, were going off to dinner, the conversation was what time we were going to come home. And she said, well, you can start talking about giant wasps and they will basically ask us to leave. And so, so here, I've got you captive for maybe 40, 45 minutes, whenever I run out of air, and we can move along. This is, as far as I'm concerned, highly interactive. You can stop me at any point. If you detect that I actually have a direction I'm going, you're mistaken. So we can go whichever way you want to go. And I will say that I'm basically going to tell you about these huge wasps that we all have right here in our neighborhood. And I entitled it in Franklin County, not because they're only found in Franklin County, but just so you realize that we're in the midst of them. And we are so lucky because these are northeastern species which are spectacular animals, ecologically, evolutionarily. I think you're going to see that. And I'm going to take you down this road by telling you two stories tonight, okay? And I'm basically just going to follow on two stories. And so we might as well just start with the first one. But I'll just get this out of the way. Hopefully you're not like Gulliver, okay, and have this amazing fear of giant wasps coming after you. You're probably used to maybe seeing this species. This is a bald-faced hornet. We get them in our flower garden all the time. Whoops. And this one was starting to make its nest on our garage door. And so I put all this protective stuff up so when the garage door went up, it didn't bother them. And that you're probably more familiar when the nest, ooh, I guess I'm too strong, looks like this. And so I was telling someone earlier that these bald-faced hornet nests, which are basically paper mache, they're made out of saliva and wood fiber that they combed off the trees nearby. They're gorgeous. They're all striped like this due to the kinds of trees they're harvesting from. And this is in my office, okay? And I try to tell Lynette that this is art because basically Architectural Digest now thinks it's art because if you had one like this one right here, they're selling for $400 or $500 online right now. People use them as natural art. Okay, anyway, that's an aside. That's probably, yeah, you can see how directed I am. So anyway, yeah, you see stuff come out of it. Somebody's going to have to clean it up afterwards. One of our friends, this was up at the peak of their roof, and so I cut it out. And it just shows all the layers of the comb where all the youngsters are raised because that's where the wall used to be. Anyway, this is a social wasp. I'm not even going to talk about these tonight, okay? I'm just letting you know what I'm not going to talk about. This is not it. But you can come up here and take a look. That's fine. We're going to talk about solitary wasps, ones that don't hang out in a social situation like that. Okay, I just took this. This is not going to be a scientific talk, but I took this out of a journal because Hymenoptera, this order, is now believed to be the most speciose, the most number of species. It tops the beetles, not the music group, but Coleoptera. And the reason is, what this article goes on to explain, the modeling that they did, was because there are so many wasps that are parasitoids, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. A parasitoid is an animal that parasitizes another and kills it. And so that is a parasitoid. And many wasps are parasitoids, and they specialize on just a single host, and therefore it just gives rise to all this incredible diversity in the parasitoid wasp, which we're going to take a look at tonight. If you take a look, this is off of
Tomlinson's website, just showing a small number of our wasps, just here in New England, okay? And you're going to see a few of the big ones up here tonight. Okay, here's the start of the story. And the story is like this. So I wasn't planning to, look at these wasps at all, but our house is right back there. And so that stone wall just separates a little bit of woods from, it's just a short distance to our house. And one day, the gorgeous beech tree out there just snapped in half, 20 feet up. And you can, let's see, is it the top one?
The pointer?
Yeah, oh, I see it. I got it. Gotcha. Okay, so there is the top, that's about 20 feet up. That's a beech that split, toppled down here. I chopped off some of the branches. I was so bummed because it was a gorgeous tree, but it was even better than I thought it was. Because as you look down that log, you see all these holes, and I was like, oh my goodness, those are like quarter-inch diameter holes. But if you start looking a little bit closer, it gets a bit weird. Here come the aliens. And they start to emerge, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And Lynette is saying, oh, this is so bad. But anyway, oops, sorry, again. So those are pigeon horntail wasps emerging. And they are the foundation of this parasitoid pyramid, which is just amazing. And so they just keep pushing out of that tree trunk, and they're coming out, and there it is, and they're gorgeous. Well, I mean, you might not think so. I think they're gorgeous. And they just kept coming out. And if you have a good eye, you saw, oh, there's my buddy coming up. Yeah, isn't that great, huh?
Were they hatching or were they coming out because the tree fell down?
They are coming out because they have been in that log probably 2 or 3 years. And they said to themselves, logs are really boring. I'm out of here. And so they're coming out as mature adults now. And so basically they move in parallel tracks in this tree. And there are other organisms that understand that also. And that's what makes this all so cool. And so here they come. And so it pops out. And this is why it's called a horntail. And you can see it has its leg over somebody's face there. And these are holes where some of the others have already taken off. And here they come.
Did they colonize it while the tree was standing or only after it was down?
While it was standing. And there was I always thought it was a beautiful live beech tree, but of course it wasn't, right? It had a huge dead section, which is why it snapped at 20 feet in a windstorm. And this one section where all the bark had been coming off, it has hundreds and hundreds of exit holes. It is so cool. And they just keep emerging. And this day after day, all summer long. This is just fantastic. And they're just popping out. And it's just like, woohoo, here we come. And then they start doing crazy stuff, okay? So this is a female. And there's the ovipositor right there. And she is going to basically stick that about an inch down into the tree, lay an egg, move along, lay another one, move along, and so on and so forth. She doesn't. She can sometimes, but she doesn't. A lot of times she just straight from the edge of the bark.
And are they specific to beech trees?
They are not. I find them mainly on beech and maple trees, but you can find them on any hardwood tree. But around here, I like beech and maple. Yeah.
So is she laying eggs right after climbing out of the hole that she hatched in?
Not.
Had a life with some excitement before it's you.
Right. Well, I think the life of excitement that you actually won't express verbally is that she came out probably a day earlier, mated with a male. They come to these openings in the woods, they plop down, they mate, and then she's good to go forever. She has, she stores the sperm. You'll see what else she stores, which is really amazing. Well, I'll tell you right now what else she is storing. she is storing fragments of the hyphae of a fungus, which is a white rot fungus. So her kids, so that egg, when it's down in the tree, when it hatches, the larva cannot digest cellulose. And so she basically, as she sends the egg down, sends down basically fungus to start growing in advance of the egg. And basically the larva feeds behind the fungus and can actually therefore digest the tree.
So how does she drill an inch into the wood? Is that what you said, an inch?
Yeah. With a ovipositor, which is just kind of a, back and forth saw blade kind of a thing. It's spectacular, but this is trivial to what you're going to see in just a second. But it's still really cool. And they do amazing things like that larva will actually take in fungus. And so when it emerges in 2 or 3 years from that tree, it will be carrying the fungus with it. And when it lays eggs, it's ready to also basically inoculate them as it lays, which is just nutso. Oh, I forgot to tell you that when I do some of this, like that 20-foot piece of tree, I lean a ladder up against it and I climb all the way to the top, and I'm watching the wasps all the way up and down the tree trunk. And this fellow decided that he'd just perch underneath the ladder, and it was like, oh, jeez, But no, I yelled at him, and he was like, oh, I didn't realize you're up there. Yeah. Okay, so now we're talking the good stuff, okay? All these wasps, almost nobody actually calls them by a common name, and this is the best common name I could come up with for it. But anyway, this is the big one, Megarrhiza atrata. And so to give you some scale, so we're up probably 15, 20 feet up in the air. She is going along and she's going to feel with her antenna, trying to detect. Well, I haven't told you what she's going to try to detect. I'm getting ahead of myself. But she has an ovipositor. You thought that the pigeon wood wasp or horntail had a good ovipositor. This one's about 6 inches long, added to a 3-inch long animal, and you're talking about, this is the largest wasp in the world. Okay, and they are right here. And some people have actually measured some that are up to 11 inches long. Okay, with the ovipositor. And so she doesn't retract that ovipositor. What she's looking for are the horntail larvae deep inside the log. And if you thought the rest was just too crazy, she detects, and no one actually knows for sure, either by sound or by pheromones or by the smell of that fungus that is down in the log with the larva. She actually localizes it so well that she can stop, drill down 6 inches, lay an egg on the exterior of that larva that will hatch and devour the whole larva. And they are so good that no one has ever found 2 eggs on one larva. So that means that basically when she puts the ovipositor in, or she basically won't oviposit where another wasp is already oviposited. Okay, so it's pretty crazy cool stuff. I'll just whip through a few pictures of what it looks like when they're actually putting their ovipositor in there. So she's pulled it underneath her, and then she expands this tissue between the segments at the end of the abdomen. That tissue is also secreting an enzyme that lubricates her ovipositor and basically is digesting as she also is sawing all the way down. And realize she is sending an egg 6 inches down that ovipositor. So it's not some big round egg, right? It's a long skinny egg that she basically is squeezing down that to go all the way down deep inside the tree. Yeah, no, it's...
Digesting? Is it digesting the cellulose?
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, and there's the ovipositor behind one of these atratas. Yeah, she's not retracting it. Yeah, It's crazy. Just more of a close-up so you can see what that looks like when she basically kind of twists. She turns the ovipositor in a little bit and then, uses this tissue in her muscles to basically force it slowly into the wood.
Does she have
Oh,
little
sorry.
claws on her at the end of her
She does.
legs?
She does. Good eye. Yeah, she does. She's grabbing the wood with them. Absolutely. Tarsal claws. Yeah, absolutely.
And is this at a certain time of the year?
It starts in May and takes me all the way into the early fall. Oh, it's just, who needs TV, right? When you have this out your window. And so here are two, oops, sorry, my mistake. Oops, did I get that right? Yeah, okay, so this is the Atrata, and this is the next species we'll take a look at. This is an intermediate sized one, okay? Macrurus. You'll see that in just a second. And they're both laying. Everybody's trying to hit all of these wood wasp larvae deep inside the log.
What's that white thing at the top, that sort of sail?
That sail up there is the same thing that you saw on her a second ago, and that's how she is powering basically the drill going into that tree. And
So
the
it's like a pneumatic drill?
It's basically, you can imagine two saw blades just going back and forth, side by side, just like this, boom, 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 all the way down. And then the egg is basically moving on the internal surface of those saw blades that are injected deep into the tree. These arching things are the protective sheaths that she puts on either side of the ovipositor. So when she pulls it out and you see that long thing extending, she basically retracts it, covers it up with these, and protects it. And then when it's here, the ovipositor is going right down below her into the tree.
So like two sides of a clamshell, those two things close over it?
Yeah, they do.
Piece of clam or something?
Yeah, just like that, right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. This is just looking down the tree at one that's laying. Just a few other shots and we'll move along because I want to make sure we can get everything done. And this is the Macrurus that you saw with her just a second ago. I'll just show you a few shots of her. Yeah, so these are all in the tree outside our house. I'm just like, oh, you're kidding me. Okay, so, and this is the fungus. This is what the mushroom portion of that fungus looks like. And so now I'm actually clued in enough that, when I'm in the woods and I see old rotting trees and I see that fungus, I'm like, Because it's a mutualism where obviously the wasp is getting great benefit from having the cellulose digested for its kid. But the fungus is like, woohoo! Take me to another tree, and also take me through the defense of that tree, through the bark of the tree, because that's the hardest part to get through. And so, yeah, I'm with you. And so it's a great mutualism. And here's a few shots of this species laying the eggs. So right here, yeah, the clamshell thing, this is what she's doing. She's basically laid her egg and she's pulled the ovipositor out, and now she's putting the sheaths on either side of the ovipositor. Using her back legs, she's basically pushing it right onto them. Okay. And there she is, and you can see a little bit shorter. Yeah, just a little ovipositor here, not as big as the Atrata. And there are a pair of them. You might notice also they differ in body size. All these wasps, it all depends on what you were fed. So if your mom laid you onto a relatively small larva, you're not going to be as big. If she laid you onto a big one, you're going to be a nice big female. And away you go. And just looking down on, this is actually looking on the log. You can kind of see I'm looking straight along the log at her laying. That's just a pretty picture of her laying in the sunlight. Okay, you thought we were done. We're not. This is greens. This is the smallest one. And their body is probably about like that, and and its ovipositor is probably about like that. So an inch and a quarter, yeah, something like that. But this is the fascinating thing, right? You have all of these parasitoids. They're all hitting the same host larva. Well, you think they are. And this is just the greeny eye laying their eggs. But this is a tiny one. And she's just pulled her ovipositor out, and you can see that it's separated a little bit from the sheath. Here she's just pulling it up out right now. There she's laying, and over here, we haven't talked about them yet, but this is a male of Mercurus, the intermediate sized one of these. All those pictures are taken in, by that tree in Gill. We live on Mountain Road. Just keep your eyes open. They're all about us. And it's one of those things that once you have the search image, it's like, oh, they've been here the whole time. And I'm seeing them where I never used to see them. This is just some diagram showing, okay, this is basically what they're doing. They're laying an egg external on that horntail larva below the ground.
How does it feel as that goes down that it doesn't pierce that larva or notice?
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, it wants to keep the larva alive and basically suck it all out of it while he's alive. Yeah, real pleasant thought, but it doesn't want to kill it. So it lays the egg on the outside, the egg hatches, and then starts sucking on the kid. I would imagine, but yeah, I mean, it's a good question. But as you might also guess, there aren't a lot of researchers who study these things, and so a lot of these really cool questions, we just don't have answers to. Okay, so here, from a scientific perspective, this is the cool thing, and maybe you figured it out while you were watching, and that is Atrata, the monster, Mercurus, the intermediate-sized one, Greeny Eye, the little one. They'll all have big ovipositors. But there's no overlap between the length of their ovipositors. They are all hitting entirely different levels of larvae inside that log. And it is one of the finest examples, of basically having speciation occur when you have everybody overlapping. And it's not that they're overlapping just regionally and spatially, they're different spots. They're all on the same log, okay? And this has fascinated people because we always used to think that species come into existence because you separate a couple populations. Over time, they become very different one from one another. You bring them back together, they can't mate, and they become biological species. But not always. And so Gibbons wrote all about this, a model for sympatric rather than what they call allopatric, where you have separate populations. Sympatric, it's all happening. All three of those species had the same ancestor, and they've split into three, and they all use different parts of the tree log, which is just fabulous. Here, I don't want to just talk about the females. Here are the males. On the left is a Atrata male. On the right is a Mercurus male. Down below is Mercurus. Up on top is Atrata, the big one. But you can see they don't look like their girlfriends at all. Okay. This is Mercurus. That's a male. This is Atrata, the big one, the male. So this is the one that had the female has the big black body with the incredibly long ovipositor. That's who she mates with. Anyway, he's out looking for action, and what do you think that is? So the big one, the Atrata, sometimes when they're laying eggs, they are locked into the tree for up to an hour. They can't move. That whole process is so time intensive. The smaller ones, Mercurus and Greeny Eye, 10 or 15 minutes and they're done and they move on to a new spot and lay an egg. But the Atratas are locked in for a good long time. And you can imagine that's a huge wasp locked on the side of a tree. If you don't think birds can figure out what's going on, yeah. And so on these trees are all of these ovipositors sticking out of the trunk, because basically any insectivorous bird, a woodpecker, whatever, they're going to take them. And so that's the remains. So he's basically looking at the ovipositor of one of his kin. So, And in males too. These are the same species. The one on the right just landed on a larger larva than his brother, and so is a lot bigger. Okay. You don't even have to imagine what sexual selection would look like in these guys. So these are males. They're all after the females, right? So they're sticking their abdomens into holes trying to reach the female coming out, the female Atrata, okay? And they hear her. And it sounds basically like somebody munching on a carrot. And you can get all three of those Megarrhiza species coming in, the males, when they hear the female gnawing her way out. And they all are just fighting each other continually to mate with her. And actually, they usually mate with them before they ever emerge. It's when they can detect them down there and get their abdomen down there, they mate, and it's done. And so you see the males there, a whole pile of them. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're crazy. I mean, look at it. They're all just. I mean, it is just fabulous. I kept it. Okay, we can all have our opinions. But yeah, I mean, and so what'll happen is if all three species are piling on, basically when the female gets far enough up, and apparently nobody knows this one either, apparently the smell of her tells them, exactly what species it is, and the other two species just fly off. But for a while, they're just based on the sound.
When you say they're fighting, what do they use to fight with?
Well, they're using laws of physics. They're leveraging each other. I tried to keep the presentations simple, so I didn't put in any video. We could have a video night, but you should see. This bunch is not just sitting still. Okay, they're just whacking each other all the time. They're pushing each other, trying to get the other one's abdomen out. And sometimes, like this guy right here, he's like, I'm going to win. I've put almost my entire abdomen in there. Nobody's displacing me, man. Yeah.
Can we hear the chewing?
Yeah.
I walk by trees and I'm hearing this.
Yeah, I mean, you could be hearing them. Don't let anybody see you put your ear on the tree, but that's fine. It works. Okay, so those are three Megarrhiza, and you thought, that's pretty incredible, but that's not all the parasitoids on this horntail. This is another one from an entirely different family of wasps called it's Abelia. This one, I do not understand how they pull it off, because she only has an ovipositor which is 4 millimeters long. The wood wasp itself, the horntails, have a 12 millimeter ovipositor. They're actually laying their eggs deeper than this thing can reach. And I think I may have just figured out while I was standing here what's going on. And I'm not even faking that. It would seem that I would. But the abdomen is really flattened. I mean, I know that it's renowned that they can fit into cracks. I guess the only way they can actually get down to the eggs, so it's laterally compressed. It looks like a round abdomen right now, but it's flat like a pancake. And she basically can slide that down cracks in the wood. I bet that's how she's doing it, because she has such a short ovipositor. But we all know that they're living off of the wood wasp larva. And there she is again. Anyway. All right. So you thought it was all over, and I'm not going to take you down this road. I just want you to know how I've saved you, okay? And that is, okay, so I was walking in the Gilltown Forest the other day, the Blake Forest, as we say. Doesn't that also look like a horntail? But it's a totally different color. This is a different species. This is the white horntail wasp. It only goes on softwood, and I'm not going to bore you with this, but get your head around this. She's on a different kind of tree. 4 entirely different types of parasitoid wasps hit her larva. And this is why we think that Hymenoptera are the most speciose group of insects that ever existed. So, and there she is. She's cleaning her antenna while she lays eggs. You have to multitask, man. Okay, I'll read this one just in case you can't. So this is Darwin talking to his, I guess, wasp wife. I own that I cannot see as plainly as others do, and I should wish to do. Evidence of design and beneficence on all sides of us. There seems to me too much misery in the world. I cannot persuade myself the beneficent, I can't pronounce that, and omnipotent God would have designedly created the ichneumonidae, that's all those parasitoids that we've just been looking at, with the express intention of their feeding within the live bodies of caterpillars, which they usually do, but they will also feed on wasps, or that a cat should play with mice. So anyway, Charles always had great things to say. So this is what comes off of those trees when a bird gets them. You basically have the ovipositor right up the middle, and then the protecting sheaths on the side. And then that was part of her abdomen right there that she lost.
So when there are those all those males
Converging?
converging on
Yeah.
on birds, if they see that, I would think it would be feast day.
I have never seen them hit that bunch, but of course it would. Can you imagine as a bird? It's like, whoa, 50 stupid males, here we go. Okay, so I know it's a bird club, and I'm so impressed that bird club people come out to listen about insects. But I thought, I have to put some bird stuff in here, otherwise we're going to, rebel. Pileated woodpecker. It's in its little gash there. It looks like it's actually been hollowing out a dugout canoe or something. But we really want to take a look at those, right? I mean, now I look at all pileated woodpecker damage very differently. Those basically are all of the wood wasp larvae and all the parasitoids they're all coming out. So those are the ones that she missed. She's going after the ones that still haven't come out, and she was having a field day. And as I now do, when I take a look at a tree like this, I look for all the ovipositors sticking out, and indeed they were. And so this was and this is in Gill. This is on Gristmill Road, if you know that road. And it was being tapped. It was a maple tree being tapped, okay? In more ways than one, ha, 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 ha. And you can see that and there she is. But what you need to realize also is that when she opens up a tree, she opens it for everybody, okay? All the little woodpeckers, a hairy, a downy, they all pile in, and they're eating the larvae. It's just a field day. And if you look closely, you probably don't have time to look. So this is looking at the edge of the cut that they made. And there are little larvae poking their heads out of all of these. And the ones that they couldn't grab yet. But they will grab them eventually. They're just going to, because that pileated, because I'm retired, I can do these things. That pileated came back to that tree from the 7th to the 31st of March. It just kept on coming. This is too good to be true. So, and I thought, okay, is this an oddity? I go over to Satan's Kingdom in Northfield, right? And sure enough, there's another female on a tree. There's a male up here just down the road from that one. They really are recycling the woods. It's really amazing to see. Yeah, no, if you want to know how weird wasp people are, yeah. So that is a trotta on Sloane's arm right there. And I think he's probably got a 9-inch long tattoo. Yeah, he was very proud of that. So, okay, story 2. I guess I'll speed it up. I should be done 5 minutes in advance, 10 minutes in advance of the hour.
Yeah, 5 or 10 would be great.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try to do that. Okay. Story number 2. Lynette and I have long connections in Philadelphia, so we go down there quite a bit. So this is St. Peter's Churchyard Cemetery. And a lot of people go there to see all the great revolutionary heroes and so forth, where they were buried. Not me. I was there, Lynette was on the bench, and I was watching these monstrous wasps flying around. I had no idea what they were at the time. I was like, I've got to find them when I get back home. And these are the cicada killer wasps on the right. On the left is actually an introduced species, but you can envision that as being kind of like a yellow jacket size wasp. And so we're talking about this huge wasp on the right. And I'm going to take you, well, in a second I'll take you there, but these are cicada killers, as their name implies, but they are eating the annual cicada on the left, not periodical ones, the ones that come up every 13, 17 years, not those. The annual ones, and by the way, annual doesn't mean they come up every year, it just means they're not synchronized. They're actually in the ground for 3 or 4 years, and some come up every year in a non-synchronous fashion. So it's a northern dog-day cicada, which is being fed upon here. This was just taken at Riverside in Gill. But I don't know, you probably see them in your yard. I think they're relatively common. If you've never seen them egg laying, I have never seen them. They usually lay these skinny little rice-like eggs in the stems of tree branches, usually. This is on the top of a cattail in a marsh near our house. And I'm like, I don't think no one's ever written it down. No one apparently has ever seen them do that. But it's really cool because you can see she's got her ovipositor stuck right in there. And if you look a little closer, it's just about to go in. And she basically slashes it and injects really very neat rows of eggs in there. And then she moves up a little further, and then she laid some more. And you can see, again, she has her ovipositor stuck into that skinny little stem. And those eggs are going to hatch, and the larvae are going to drop out, go onto the ground, and they're going to bury themselves and live underground for, well, they're going to live underground for 3 or 4 years. They feed on the roots of trees. Okay, so I'm just going to remind you of the glacier that you may not have lived that long, but Rocky Hill Dam down here, but it affects everything that I'm going to talk about, because what that Lake Hitchcock did is it backed up this water. There used to be a tributary coming into it here, and that produced a sandy delta, which we now call the Montague Sand Plains. And it has an entirely unique set of animals and plants that are found there. Let's see, you can see here the plains. Let's see, and we are up here tonight. So, this is just showing the planning boundary that Mass Wildlife uses in managing the area. I'm going to show you the soil map just so that you know that all these kind of brownish tan soils here, they're all sandy, well drained. And this, as far as I know, has to have the largest cicada killer wasp population in Massachusetts. I can't imagine anybody has more. It's pretty dramatic. And then you get into edge of the lake sorts of deposits here. Okay, so because I saw these in Philadelphia, I wanted to find them up here. The sand plains are literally in my backyard. It's just great. Here are the males flying. So second, third week of July, they come out of the ground. And they come out before the females do. And in this little subcolony, I probably had 300 or 400 males all flying. It's just, if I got my head down a little bit lower, I could say it's deafening. But I mean, they are loud. But they sit on the vegetation and they patrol. And they just watch and they watch. And if there's another male flying around, they fly after them. And they're looking for the girls coming out of these holes, because the females are going to be just about a week or so behind them. And they come out and they want to mate with them. Obviously, you see a common theme here. And then they find her. And they mob her. And And then she is able to fly off with one of them and find a little bit of an isolated place and hang out for maybe 45 minutes and be inseminated, and she's going to store sperm. So this is her, big body. That's critical. Small-bodied male. They always hang upside down to have sex. It's just the way it is. So they are so distracted, and the males have no stingers, so it's only the female. And she is so distracted because she's trying to survive the mating ritual. And so you can pick them up, you know, like a ball of, well, you can. I realize there are phobias out there, but I mean, theoretically, you can pick them up.
So do you think it's random which male actually mates with her, or does she have a way of selecting the ones she likes better?
You know, what people think is that she basically beats it out of that mess of males, and she gets up in the air, and she just flies like crazy. And basically, it's only the fastest, most maneuverable males that can actually then catch her, and that's who she mates with. And that's how selection occurs.
What's the ratio of male to female? Is it 50-50 or there are
That's way too good of a question. It is not just 50-50, and it can change all the time. So wasps are Hymenoptera. They have, they basically can control the sex of their offspring. So she stored sperm. If she wants a female, she fertilizes her egg. If she wants a male, she doesn't, and she controls that. And she can judge how rich the environment, and the reason it matters, you'll see in just a second, and that is she's going to dig a tunnel, and she's going to have all these dead ends on it, these chambers, and she's going to provision her eggs with paralyzed cicadas. And she puts 2 paralyzed cicada in a chamber that is going to become a female, and she lays a fertilized egg on it. And she puts 1 paralyzed cicada in a chamber if it's going to be a male, and she lays an unfertilized egg on that cicada. And she knows what she's going to do, and she knows how she's going to provision it. And you can imagine, depending on so many variables, it would be hard to quantify. She is calculating, should I produce more males, females right now? It takes less effort to forage and get the cicadas to support male offspring, half the amount. As you see the females age over a few weeks of their life, their wings become tattered, they just seem exhausted. It's not hard for me to imagine that as you get to the end of your life, you just start producing boys. It's a lot easier, right? So, I mean, don't anthropomorphize that anywhere, okay? Because that is so not true. It is energetically so much easier. Okay, so anyway, you can see they're locked in copula. All these other males are fighting with her needlessly. She's already locked in. She's storing that sperm, and the other guys are just wasting their time. You can see that's her stinger. He doesn't have one. Okay, now she says it's time to make my nest. I'm going to fly over here. I have to dig. I move rocks. That is a tibial spur. It's basically used like a shovel. The females have huge ones, the males have little puny ones. And the females just use it to basically push all that sand out of the way. But to give you a little scale, let's see, that's the entrance to the burrow. And she just comes out and just pushes that sand away. And there are a few of them there. And this is just a schematic from a publication, just somebody mapped out, the chambers and so on and so forth. And the side view. Okay, so here is the problem. You've got this, even though she's much bigger than the male, she is much smaller than one of these cicadas. They're 2 or 3 times her body mass. And people have done the calculations and said basically it's not possible for them to fly with this, but they do. And so they basically she flies up into the trees surrounding where her nest is. She visually spots, it could be a male or a female cicada, she doesn't care. Lands on it, stings it, paralyzes it, does a bear hug on it, and just flies back and basically just kind of glides back in. I'm standing in the colony often because that's what retired people like me do. And they will sometimes just land on my shoulders and then take off from there. Or they'll crawl up my legs just to get some height to get the rest of the way. They're just but in the meantime, I get to watch them handle this huge cicada, which is and so yes, the females are bigger than the males, but the cicadas are pretty darn big. So the problem is, how do you carry those things?
Do you video these?
I have, yeah. I have videos. Yeah. Don't make me go there. Yeah, you didn't want to go home this week, did you? So there is one who's come in with her cicada. She knows which nest is hers. Actually, this one is still stinging the cicada. And down she goes. Da-da-da. That's a male, has a really blunt abdomen on it that she's taking.
They're not stinging to kill, they're just stinging to stun, right?
Yeah, they're stinging just to paralyze it because it's basically going to be, live food for their kids. So they're just put in, a state of, hopefully happiness. I doubt it though. Okay, I showed you them digging out their burrow. If you're really clever and you look at this, you go, how can that one be digging out the burrow? Because he's in reverse, right? So what's she doing? She's backfilling. I mean, she's like a piece of heavy equipment. And she just basically, after she fills a chamber, puts in a couple of cicadas, goes back, seals it. Because if you don't, your neighboring cicada will say, you know what, she's gone right now. I think I'll go lay an egg. And so you have to block it off. So just for some shots, just to show you the size disparity. Yeah, is that amazing or what? Yeah, they're crazy. This is not me doing the cutting, but this is in a publication. Somebody actually cut in to see, what it looks like in that burrow system. You can see all the cicadas that have been put in chambers. This is just a schematic showing kind of what we've already talked about. I just put this in here just because if you do go online, you'll find that usually it's pest control people that are concerned with cicada killers. They mess up people's lawns. Even before this talk, that's the call I got, was from somebody in South Deerfield who said, how do I get rid of those? And I'm like, oh, that's really not what I want to do. But, but I will say what's interesting about his situation is that I said, what's your address? And he gave me his address. I'm not going to give it to you. And so I looked him up online immediately, and I looked at his soil type, and it's a perfect match to the sand plains. It was just a ribbon of sandy soil, and he happened to have his house on it, and he has the cicada killers. I was so envious. National Geographic, even in the 1920s, had an article on the cicada killers. Oops, they didn't have that. But oh, good, you got the humor in it there. Okay, good. Yeah. There we go. The synchrony is amazing, right? So this is off of iNaturalist. It just shows you for the dog day cicadas and then for the killer. And the killer peak is just a little bit earlier. That's because all the males are piling out. And they're not, and they themselves aren't messing with cicadas at all. It's the females that come a little bit later, and they will be coming out right at peak. And so everything is driven by the cycle of the cicada.
So when the males have mated with the females, do they just then kick the bucket? Are they done? That's the end of them, or what?
They last a couple of weeks, and they keep on hanging out even into late August, even into early September. The chance of them getting a mating at that point is just about zilch, but for some reason they still hang out. I don't know what other benefit there could be, if they are somehow keeping other parasitoids away from the nest that perhaps they have some genes in. I really don't know. Yeah?
What do the adult wasps eat during their adult stage?
They don't. They did all of their eating when they were a kid, and that served them for their whole life. Yeah, it's amazing. No eating. Yeah.
So is that synchrony being messed up by the changing climate?
Wow. It would make you wonder, right? I don't know. I mean, that's something you'd want to look at because these are so dependent on it just being perfect, right? It all depends upon what their cues are, right? If it's actually a climate cue or if it's a animal cue. And if it's a climate cue, your speculation is probably the depressing answer. So, sometimes you see giant black wasp. This one was getting a cricket out of the nest. So the cricket must have gone in to hide. I was wondering, what is that wasp going in there for? And a second later it pops out, he says, I've got my cricket. And it buries crickets. It's not a cicada killer, it's a cricket killer. So, I will mention also that I didn't take this picture. This was actually somebody taking the photo around Chicago during periodic cicada emergence. But it does remind me that around the colonies, right there in the sand plains, blue jays just hang out and other insectivorous birds. And if they can, they just make the cicada killer drop the cicada and they grab it. It's just a real easy way to kleptoparasitize. Yeah, there are people that want also tattoos of cicada killers. So line up for that. And thank you. I did have one last show and tell thing for you. I just noticed it in my bag. So if you've in here, you are so lucky that I basically have a dead pigeon horntail wasp and just a ton of ovipositors I've collected because I love collecting ovipositors. I mean, if she died, that's not good, but they are so cool. So you can take a look at them, get a feel for what we're talking about. And I guess with that, I'll answer any questions, or try to answer questions, make something up.
Is the time of day where these wasps are active kind of the same, depending on the temperature, or just like, are there like different parts of the day where they tend to search out their prey, or are they like active at the same time?
Are you talking about the
Parasitoids mostly.
The parasitoids? They will show up, 8 or 9 in the morning, and they're ready to roll. Yeah, the cicada killers, they're more a little bit late morning because there's no need to get up too early if the cicadas aren't out, moving about so you can find them. But yeah, when you're basically, you have a really short lifespan, like these wasps do, and you want to be able to either, if you're a male, pass on your genes, or if you're the female, you want to quickly hit a larva. It might actually be advantageous to go when there's the fewest number of birds. I've never really thought of, but I never simultaneously measured bird activity. But it's hard for me to imagine that over evolutionary time, that there isn't some selection for a behavior to avoid all of those nasty birds that are ready to kill you. Anything else? Yes.
Going back to the earlier part,
Yeah.
and you had the 3 different kinds with different ovipositors.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the ones with the longest one, they only hear where to go that distance. So they never, go.
Can you believe that system works?
Can't believe it.
I can't either. I mean, it's almost like it has to be made up because how do they have the sensitivity? And so the people that have studied them in the past, basically they chop open a log, they look at the various layers. Okay, so if you're a wood wasp, you reach down about 20 millimeters into that log, you lay your egg. When that hatches, the larva will move various depths into the log. And I don't think anybody understands how you choose how deep you go. And so then you have to and then you have this set of 3 megarrhiza parasitoids, all have very different ovipositor lengths. And apparently they only lay to the maximum depth of their ovipositor, because when you chop open the log and you look at the wood wasp larva, they only have the eggs of what you would guess to be the right length of ovipositor. And I'm just like, well, why don't you oviposit? You got a 6-inch long ovipositor. Why don't you hit ones like at 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters? But they don't. There's been strong selection that you only go to one depth where you don't have any competition, and that's where you lay your egg. And it's like, oh, that's just too cool.
Well, that's fascinating, Paul. Thanks so much.
You bet. Okay.
Have a good night,
Great.
everybody.
Thanks for coming out. Safe travels home.